It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
Of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. Level 3 has begun. The Dallas Mavericks run to the championship has begun as well. 4 more wins to cut down the nets. Can Kyrie Irving win another NBA championship? Luka Doncic. We live in such an era right now of unless you win, you're not somehow validated by the mainstream. And unfairly or fairly, it is what it is. That's the world that we're in right now. But Luka Doncic, if he's able to nail down, and one thing that's crazy about this, and I find it's funny, and I've never really been a full out, he never won, so he's no good. But that's the world with talk TV and debate and stuff like that, and social media. People have short attention spans. But all it takes is one. All it takes is one, right? It's funny. Before, in the older days, when you won, it was more so, you know what, he's won, but, Bird's won a couple of times, the Magic's won more, or Jordan's won more, right? Now, though, if you just win that once, you're set. You're sort of set for life moving forward. You never have that hanging over you. Like, look at, especially in the NFL, look at it, look at the perceptions. Like, Aaron Rodgers gets treated, right, like he's Joe Montana or something. Aaron Rodgers won 1 Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers won as many Super Bowls as Brad Johnson has. He's won as many Super Bowls as Mark Rippon has, right? Or Trent Dilfer has. And people like sort of mock Trent Dilfer. Well, Trent Dilfer has as many Super Bowls as Aaron Rodgers does, right? And some people, you win once and then that's you're cool, right? So Luka, he's had critics in the past. He plays slow. He's selfish. He only scores. He doesn't play defense. And all of this, right? If Luka can just finish it off and win, then everything else is just sort of icing, right? He can just go after records and stats and numbers, right? I don't know. Like, I don't really see. And, it's in the era now, too. That's why we don't have teams that repeat so much anymore. You'll hear, because of salary cap era and stuff. No. Players lose their hunger after. They just do, because they sort of know. They spend so much time thinking about that championship, right? I got to get that championship. I got to get that championship. And once they get the championship, then it's like, I got to get paid. I got to get paid. The mentality changes. It does. Fred VanVleet is a great example of that. with the Toronto Raptors. He did an interview when he was on the Raptors, and he was very honest at the end. And he said, at first, it was just make the NBA. I was undrafted, and it was a long shot to make the NBA. My goal was to make the NBA. And he said, my goal was, to become an NBA regular. And then he said, then, I became an all-star, and I won a championship. And he goes, now my goal is to get paid. Right? And he was honest, and he's right. Look at the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets weren't the exact same team as last year. They lost a couple of little role players, Bruce Brown being one of them. They weren't the identical team, but they're pretty much the same team. All right? They was pretty much the identical team. You notice they weren't as good. And they didn't have the same hunger. All year they were playing from behind. They were lazier. They didn't have the killer instinct, right? It's hard to sustain that hunger. Patrick Mahomes has been great at it. Mahomes, the great ones somehow feel slighted even when they're receiving accolades. And Mahomes does that. Now, they're driven to win 3 in a row because no one's done it, right? They're driven. That's the difference between the good ones and the great ones. Let's roll. Level 3 has begun. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bust them, and everybody else in between. What's up, SoCal? Shout out to all of our AM radio affiliates. 1090 in the house. The 50,000-watt Juggernaut Sirius XM Channel 1, 59 on the SportsGrid radio and television networks. We've been here for a couple hours, but you join us for the final hour of the program. We got a lot of stuff to get to. We'll get you caught up to date with all the latest NBA numbers as the NBA Finals are set. The Panthers get it done. I said it was going to be 3-2. We love the under of the game, but I said it was going to be 3-2 for the Rangers tonight. But I think that series is going to go 7. As we see, home ice means nothing in the National Hockey League. Tonight, home court didn't mean anything for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The T-Wolves didn't want to get swept, and they didn't, but they might as well have because they got absolutely throttled. Luka Doncic with an epic performance tonight. He outscored the T-Wolves in the first quarter. He had 20 points in the first quarter of play. The T-Wolves had 19. As Luka goes off, Kyrie goes off, Dallas shows the killer instinct, the championship caliber teams show. We talked about it. Yes, you let them off the hook the other night, but the way to make up for it was to go in there and punch him in the mouth this evening, and it's exactly what they did. The odds makers, not overly impressed, as the Boston Celtics are minus 225 favorites to win the NBA championship. The Dallas Mavericks are plus 185. We have a game 1 number for you. We are 1 week away. They tip off next Thursday night, so we got 1 week off as far as the NBA is concerned. The Dallas Mavericks are getting 6 points in game 1. The total, 214 right now. So this is no doubt going to be an exciting series full of great storylines. You've got, just a fun Dallas Mavericks basketball team that has a legit supporting cast around Kyrie and Luka Doncic versus a Boston Celtic team that, speaking of needing to win a championship to validate yourselves, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown and company, there's more pressure on the Boston Celtics in this series, right? They're the ones that are in the conference finals all the time. They're the ones that got a general free pass into the finals. Boston are running out of time. How long is that window going to be open? Similar to the Buffalo Bills, right? There's certain teams that, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Edmonton Oilers, there's a lot of teams that have been there, but they haven't done it. And the Boston Celtics are that team still, right? They haven't won a long time. This unit hasn't won before. People are about, they want to give them the Larry O.B. already. I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be able to play with them. We'll get you the series numbers as far as, the series spreads, how long the series is going to go. So the Boston Celtics have home court advantage. Similar to the National Hockey League, home court isn't all that anymore. And the Boston Celtics have not been a great team at home in the playoffs over the last couple of years. Similar to the Boston Bruins for whatever reason. But the Celtics, I think they feel the pressure. Similar to the Edmonton Oilers, right? There's some teams, man, you look up, you got all those banners hanging. The players see it. There's just sort of you guys aren't as good as other people that have worn this jersey before. And you're put in a tougher situation than if you play for the Florida Panthers. They don't have any banners. They don't have any players anybody ever cared about before. You're not playing, under Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier's retired numbers hanging over your face, right? There's a difference to the levels of pressure. And you want to talk about pressure, there's no more pressure on any NBA player and any team than when you play for the Boston Celtics, right? The Lakers are talked about a lot, but it's not the same. East Coast pressure is different. People in Boston are different. And when it comes to the Celtics, it's different. So there is definitely more pressure on the Celtics. And don't forget, too, the Celtics are supposed to win this series. They're minus 225 favorites, right? So Dallas are kind of playing with house money right now. They've got a killer assassin in Kyrie Irving, who's been there and done that before. In the NBA Finals, he's won before. And you have a potential superstar here and Luka Doncic getting ready to, global stardom if he's able to win this championship. Jason Tatum's path, Jason Tatum's a great player, but people will throw him under the bus fast when I talk about pressure. There's basically, you got Luka, you got Tatum, you got Brown, you got Kyrie, and there's only one trophy to go around, right? This is like the one of the great tag team championship matches ever in like wrestling history. There's going to be some good stuff. This is Sports Rage. Bring it.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. It's your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Well, we know that the Dallas Mavericks are in the NBA Finals. Will it be the Dallas two-step? Will the Dallas Stars be in the Stanley Cup Finals? And, I wish I would have cashed this earlier or played it earlier. But in past years, we've had success parlaying who we think is going to win the Stanley Cup Finals and who we think is going to win the NBA Finals. Except this year, it's just so hard. The NHL is still so up in the air. Anything can happen. And Ranger fans are ready to give up now, and Ranger media is going to turn on them, just like Edmonton did the other night. And then Edmonton suddenly wins somehow, right? Listen, there's no doubt the Rangers back against the wall right now. Florida are not a great home team. The Rangers have been pretty good on the road, and they've shown they can win in Florida. The last game is always the hardest game to win. I wouldn't be surprised if we go 7 there. Dallas and Edmonton, it's almost hard to believe that Edmonton's going to win the series somehow, right? It appears like Dallas is the better team, like they are overall. They're more complete than Edmonton are, but Edmonton are good. And I've talked about this before the series started with Edmonton. Don't forget, like the Edmonton Oilers were Stanley Cup favorites, and they have been for a couple of years. Like people always, we've just seen them lose so much. And the other thing is teams from Canada, it usually blows up on them. We talk about levels of pressure. There's a ton of pressure on the Boston Celtics. There's way more pressure on the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. How many beat writers do the Dallas Stars have? 1? And it's probably a computer, AI. Like the Edmonton Oilers literally have like 92 jackass, annoying people asking them questions after every game. And there's different levels to it. That's why I think the Oilers could be successful on the road. I'm taking the Oilers tomorrow. We're going to hope for the best. They're underdogs. I think they can win the series, but if they're going to win the series, they're not going to win if they're down 3-2 against the Stars. This is it. You stole game 4. Go and do it again. Get up 3-2, and you got 2 cracks at it, man, against the Stars after. Right? So it's still so up in the air. But let's just look at some of the numbers and put some of them together. So let's just say hypothetically both Dallas teams win. All right, so let's say both Dallas teams win the championship, which I'm not convinced they were, but let's kick the tires on what it'll pay. So Dallas Mavericks to win the championship and the Dallas Stars to win the championship, the Stanley Cup. This parlay together pays plus 840. So the Dallas two-step is plus 840. I would say that the Stars, you could argue the Stars have a better chance of winning the Cup than the Mavericks do. They're the Mavericks are the ones that are the bigger underdogs here. So let's take the Mavericks out of the equation. Let's say the Dallas Stars are going to win the Stanley Cup, and the Boston Celtics are going to win the NBA Finals. This pays plus 376. Dallas Stars to win the Cup, Boston Celtics to win the championship. And I almost don't want to do this because of our crew who are Ranger fans and talk about, what about the Florida Panthers? The Boston Celtics and the Florida Panthers. All right, the Celtics to win the championship and the Florida Panthers to win the championship does not pay very well at all. Plus 261. That's what it is. And you know what? This is really surprising. I guess it isn't because they have a 3-2 lead. They have a 3-2 lead now. But the Panthers are plus 150 to win the Cup. I don't think the Panthers are that. I'm not going to say they're not great because they're very, very good. They forecheck. They finish their checks. They do put a lot of pressure on you. But they also have these goal-scoring droughts as well. I've maintained that I think the team from the West is going to win. And I'm sticking to it. But, the Florida Panthers, I don't think it's a good bet, plus 150. Hell, they're not even out of the series yet. So these are the updated Stanley Cup odds right now. The Florida Panthers are plus 150 to win the Cup. The Dallas Stars are plus 230. The Edmonton Oilers are plus 240. And the Blue Shirts, the New York Rangers, are suddenly plus 950 right now. Updated numbers after tonight. Interesting. So if it's Dallas versus Florida in the Cup, I think Dallas beat them. If it's Edmonton versus Florida in the Cup, it's a hell of a series. It's tough. Florida are very physical. I think Edmonton could win though. I think Edmonton could beat the Rangers. I think they could beat the Panthers if they played them. Some people will doubt it, but people didn't think they were going to beat the Dallas Stars. And I think the Stars would beat either one of them. I think the Stars would beat the Panthers. I think the Stars would beat the Rangers. Like I said, I'm locked in on the Western Conference. I think either the Stars or the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup, personally. But that's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so crazy and so cool. I mean, you can't really lock it in. You know what I mean? Like the Dallas Stars could easily win tomorrow at home. They're going to be up 3-2. But I'm going to ride the Oilers tomorrow night. That's my pick for tomorrow night's game. The Edmonton Oilers as the dog. Updated number right now for the hockey game. The Oilers are plus 110. The total is an even 6 in this game. And as these games get more important, the referees, and we're getting later, we're getting close to the cup, the referees want to keep the whistle in their pockets. And neither team wants to get into a track meet. I think this total at 6 is a little high here. I like the under 6 and the Edmonton Oilers at plus 110. Game 1 of the NBA Finals, a week away right now. We went over some of these series prices. Game 1, the point spread is 6, and the total is 214. I do think, whatever way you look at this, and I am a fan of taking the easy way out and not even picking a winner. That's what I did with the 2 hockey series. I just parlayed them both to go over 5.5 games in the series, and we hit it. And looking at this NBA Finals, I do think there's, it's going to be a prolonged series. Over 5.5 games is minus 175. We're going 6 games in this series, right? I don't think either team is going to win in a sweep. I don't think either team is going to win 4-1. So I do like the over 5.5. Over 6.5, meaning, so does the series go 7 games, is plus 200. I really like that over 5.5.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. It's your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
The Thursday Night Throwdown continues. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency on the SportsGrid Radio and Television Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. Shout out to all of our AM radio affiliates joining us. Countdown to kickoff is on. We know we're now less than 100 days away from the start of the National Football League regular season, but college football kickoff rapidly approaching. August the 24th. Normally we have a week 0. We got a week 00. this year. August 24th with Georgia Tech and Florida State in Dublin. And then our week 0 is off the hook. And, of course, we've been talking a lot about going to the LSU and the USC game, a football game that Lincoln Riley does not want us going to. Brent Beard steps up and in right now from the East Coast. Heisman Trophy voter joins us from Jacksonville, Florida. First Coast News, college football analyst and more. Brent, always good to see you, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing really well after I got a couple of these over the last few days.
They finally arrived, huh? It's time.
Yeah, Lindy's and Athlon is out. Now we're a little bit away from Phil Steele. Gabe, he'll be coming up on July the 4th, too. But look, and as we dive into this LSU stuff, LSU's trying to find a game in Ireland like Florida State has with Georgia Tech. Now, what's interesting is, too, FSU has not one, not two, but 3 bye weeks this year because they're going to Ireland. How about that? You ever heard of that, Gabe? In one season, they have 3 bye weeks. So the beginning of the year is hurtling toward us, isn't it?
Interesting that LSU wants to go to Ireland right now as well.
Yeah.
Why? Is it to expand their brand? Very interesting. Like Notre Dame makes sense, right? All right, Notre Dame is playing.
Right.
Notre Dame's going to Dublin. It made sense. Northwestern Nebraska, okay, right? But now we got Georgia Tech and Florida State. But so teams want to go to Ireland, and LSU want to go. LSU love playing these kickoff classic games, don't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Now look, one thing for LSU that people have not seen yet, Gabe. LSU has not won a home opener, an opening game of the season in several years now. Florida State's beat them twice. So they really need to get off the snide. But we talked with Mike Norvell. He was in town in Jacksonville just a couple weeks ago, and he's actually holding the team over for a day for them to see the sights. So these Ireland trips have begun to be I think it's a inducement for the fans to be able to give to these collectives, for the players to see maybe a once in a lifetime trip. Gabe, I think at this point we could see an Ireland game every year for a while.
The National Football League announced last week as well that Dublin is on the radar for next year for them. Dublin and Paris added to the international schedule. As far as the magazines are concerned, I love them all. Although, as I've stated, as I've gotten older, I have a hard time reading the print. I find myself with the magazine very close. And then I order the online edition, and I'm like, this sucks. I like the magazine better. Right? So I ordered the Phil Steele online the last couple of years. It's like PDFs, and I'm getting frustrated, blowing, expanding the letters. It goes too big. It goes too small. But I'm good friends with Mark Lawrence, and I love his playbook, his yearly playbook. And I know, speaking of Phil Steele as well, obviously, guys, imagine the challenge of putting together a football preview magazine when you're dealing with 130-plus football teams.
Yeah. Yes.
And on top of that, roster changes. But in the modern era with the transfer portal, absolute deadline nightmare, I imagine, for people. The challenge is unbelievable. I mean, rosters are still being put together.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the deal with that. Basically your last spring game was April the 23rd. Well, Lindy's for the last 2 years has come out based on the same day, which has been May the 23rd. So, Gabe, do the math on that real quick. So you actually have probably got a May 1 or May 2 deadline if you want to put the magazine out. Now, they've got a lot of it done, but to your point, with the portal and all that goes along with it, or maybe injuries in the spring game, man, you're running against the deadline, and it's coming hard and fast.
Hey, Brent, I've always looked at the college football season sort of like I was a student as well in the summertime. I better start studying because there's a lot of teams.
That's right.
And before we know it, the season's going to be here. So We'll hit the Lincoln Riley situation on the other side with USC Trojans. This is SportsRage. Bring it.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. Took a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. We're talking college football right now. Countdown to kickoff is on. Brent Beard joining us, Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News college football analyst. So, Brent, the reports have come out, and other people have sort of confirmed the reports as well. Started, I believe, with Matt Hayes, that initially reported that Lincoln Riley was looking for a way out of this football game and has been for 2 years now. Put pressure on Fox Television to try to get him out of the game. And, you know, Fox wanted USC to be their first game in the Big Ten and all that. So they tried to use that route, but that didn't work. Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly have the same agent. So the report was that Riley tried to get his agent to soften Kelly up to cancel the game, because they needed sort of a joint reason, right? USC can't say, oh, we're scared to play the football game. So he wanted Kelly to agree to cancel the game. And from what I understand, LSU kind of laughed at them and said, that's not happening. We're not canceling the football game, right? So not a good look for USC here, Brent.
No,
it just
really
isn't. Now, for whatever the reasons are, and I get it, it doesn't make sense. Well, hey, I'm a Michigan guy. Let's not play Texas this year. Tough. It is what it is. We're playing Texas this year. Man up and play the damn game.
Yeah.
Not a good look. And it just goes back, guys, to something. You know, why would Lincoln Riley leave Oklahoma? He had a great thing going on. He had Heisman Trophy winners. He's going to the college football playoff every year. He's knocking on the door to winning a national championship. There were a lot of people that felt as though he didn't want to go to the SEC. He didn't want to deal with the SEC. He liked being a kingpin. So he takes all the money. He goes to Los Angeles. You know, he thought it was going to be easier in the Pac-12. It wasn't. And now the Pac-12 merges with the Big Ten. And now he's worried about playing LSU. Hey, Coach, you're also going to Ann Arbor this year, sir. Like,
yes, you are.
There's a lot of games, man, that you're going to, like, what do you make of this with Lincoln Riley? What are people saying down south about this?
I just thought it was very odd frankly, and no one's really buying this at all. I mean, look, and to your point, this started what, Gabe, about 2 years ago, actually, trying to get this game changed. But my goodness, it's a headliner game, I would think. And look, even if you lose
Brent,
this,
I was ready to go to the game last year. Remember briefly, I thought it was last year. You and I have been talking about this game for 3 years.
yeah, that's right. Look, the thing I don't understand about this is, I mean, LSU is still struggling defensively. In the spring game, they had wide receivers wide open in the inter-squad game. So, I mean, what? Look, I know they don't have Caleb Williams. I get that, but still, you can score points on this LSU defense. I know. I just didn't get it. It to me is the most exciting game of the weekend. It's on Sunday night. It's on ABC. Why in the world
in Vegas
about that?
Yeah, in Vegas, and another thing too, it's in your backyard. Yeah. I mean, it's on the West Coast. There's USC are a very popular team in Las Vegas, as well as short trip. We know LSU fans are going to travel though, and as you stated, you mentioned Brent. So the we talked about it. You just said they lost to FSU 2 years in a row. Don't forget they lost to UCLA 3 years ago. Yes. They opened up at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. I was there. LSU fans were shocked. They never thought they were going to lose to UCLA.
Absolutely not. No.
They didn't think it was possible, almost. So, I wanted to get to this. Another team, Pac-12 team, and it made it Pac-12, and Bill Walton, rest in peace. But the Ducks are going into the Big Ten, and it's a little bit different of a narrative than the USC Trojans. I don't think Coach Lanning and the Ducks are scared of anybody.
No,
and I think you can make an argument, Brett, that he's the best young coach in football. I know there's a lot of good coaches out there, but we know Alabama probably would have hired him if they could have. He's comfortable where he is right now. I got to believe, Brent, as a betting man, I would put money on the table and say Dan Lanning will be a national champion head coach in less than 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. What do you say about that?
I think it's within 3. Look, I love Lanning, and you're right. Alabama had a real interest in Lanning. Now, it worked out well for them to get Kalen DeBoer, but don't think for a minute. And I talked to a lot of the Alabama beat writers who said they were really impressed with Lanning, and what Lanning's done after coming over from Georgia is really impressive. And speaking of the magazines, Oregon is in basically the top 5, I believe, in every magazine. So, look, defense is better. Obviously, losing Bo Nix, but you and I have talked about this over the last few weeks. They've got an incredible amount of talent. Lanning can really recruit. This is going to be one of the more dangerous teams in the nation over the next few years.
And now they have the Big Ten schedule to prop them up as well.
Yes.
So they're going, they're going to be in the mix all the time. They're going to play an extremely tough schedule all the time. They play Michigan. Michigan, you don't talk about schedules, man. Michigan plays everybody this year. Michigan play the Ducks, too.
Yeah. Oh,
It never ends. The game's in Ann Arbor, though. Game's in Ann Arbor. Brutal. But, and speaking, listen, Bo Nix, the guy started more college games than anybody. I like him. But their offense will be even better with Dylan Gabriel. Let's be real. They're going to put up massive numbers.
Yes. And look, I give Nick's credit. Nick's really matured between the time he was at Auburn until the time that he was at Oregon, and he really was able to prove that. But I'm with you, Gabe. I don't think they skip a beat with Dylan Gabriel. Do you? And look, they've got the offensive line. They've got the skill positions at Oregon. Dangerous football team in the Ducks.
They will have to adapt to the Big Ten a bit, but I think,
agree.
Right? And you figure Washington's, adaptation will be pretty seamless, but they lost a lot of people. They have a new coach, a little different. But Lanning is a defensive guy. He's a physical guy. The Ducks aren't really like a Pop-Tart type of team or soft or anything like that. So, if I think of all the teams, we'll talk about that next time, Brandon. It'd be I'll let you think about it. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, out of all the teams that are going to new conferences, who's going to walk in and potentially win in their first year or be the most seamless? Is it Texas, right? Texas, coming into the SEC would be a massive feather in their cap if they could win. I keep sort of coming back to the Utah Utes, though, going into the Big 12 right now.
Right.
You know what?
Right.
That team could actually make the playoffs, go through the Big 12, show up. They're going to fit right in. The style that they play, very physical, will cause some problems for some teams there. What new teams? I guess Texas and Oklahoma you must be fascinated about. What do you think about teams going into these new conferences?
I think Texas is probably the most ready. I think Oklahoma is going to be much better defensively. That they made a real effort to beef up that side of the ball.
Their schedule is hard, man, the Sooner schedule.
It really is. Oh, it is. Yeah. I mean, they play Alabama, too, this year. It's going to be a very difficult schedule for them. The thing that I'm concerned about Texas with, they lose Bo Davis, I think the best defensive line coach in the nation. He's going to LSU, and they're going to have to restock that defensive line, but I think they can do it. Quinn Ewers and those skill position players, I think they will probably be fine with that.
It's pretty scary, Brett. When you've got Arch Manning and he's not even playing on the team. You mentioned Quinn Ewers.
Oh, yeah. But to answer your question, yes, I would say probably Texas, Oregon, or the two teams that make the smoother transition.
And for the record, the Texas Longhorns have the second shortest odds, actually, to win the SEC after the Georgia Bulldogs, which will hit on the other side with Brent Beard. And speaking of the SEC, the College Baseball World Series set to begin. 11 SEC participants, including numerous favorites at the top of the tote board as well. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Brent. Which team should we be keeping our eye on?
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
Of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
The Thursday Night Throwdown continues. We're breaking it down with Brent Beard. We're talking college football right now. I want to get to the College Baseball World Series and get his thoughts on that as well. But, Brent, I talked about the SEC and the future odds have come out. But as far as the SEC is concerned, when we're talking about the expanded college football playoff, a lot of people wanted it. And I always tell people, be careful what they wish for. Expanded playoffs just kind of meant expanded for more SEC and Big Ten teams.
Yes.
People thought, well, we need a real playoff. Okay, now there will be a real playoff.
Really?
And it's already started as SEC leaders argue that 9-3 is good enough for an SEC team to be in the playoff. So now the Big Ten can say the same thing. Well, you know what? If we go 9-3, we're going to be in, and they're essentially running this playoff.
Yeah, they are.
What do you make of this, Brent? We haven't even played a game yet, and Greg Byrne and everybody already talking about, hey, 9-3 gets us in, in the SEC.
Well, I've got to believe, too, that for the Big Ten and the SEC, and they're basically making the rules right now, the two dominant conferences. Now, it may be more 10-2 than 9-3.
Yeah, 10-2 gets you in. 9-3 will be an outlier.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But still, and look, the other thing the SEC's got to deal with, and you mentioned this earlier, is that it's back on the table for them maybe looking at 9 SEC games, Gabe, then instead of 8, they're looking for revenue streams. That would be the easiest way to be able to do that for the SEC. But here's the thing, and you and I have talked about this before, Gabe, if they go to 9 conference games, could that extra game be the game that keeps somebody out? And it may put somebody in, but could it also put somebody out if you get a loss there? So, as you said, they better be careful what they're looking at. Yes.
Well, you know what? I warn people about this, especially I warn fans about this, of some of these powerhouses that were powerhouses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, put it this way, UCLA Bruin fans already frustrated. You think it's going to be better in the Big Ten now for you? Like, if you weren't happy before, you didn't think you were winning enough football games before.
Really?
Lincoln Riley, think about it. Let's just, in a cold, hard truth, you had one of the greatest college quarterbacks ever.
Mm-hmm.
You had one of the highest prospect quarterbacks, the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. You had numerous other skill position players. I'm not going to say it was an easy conference, but you had everything laid out for you. You went 7-5.
Yeah.
Now you're going to go and play in Ann Arbor in the snow and the wind, and you're going to play the Ohio State Buckeyes of the world. Like, Howard, I'm just saying, for Trojan boosters, get ready for it. 5-7, 6-6 seasons. You know what I mean? Ain't going to be, geez, maybe we shouldn't have broken up the Pac-12, huh?
Oh, yeah. But I'm just telling you, Gabe, they are only going so far as their defense allows them. You and I have talked about the fact they have really struggled defensively the last few years, and Riley's got, and I think he's beginning to realize you've got.
He has put money into it. They have hired. I mean, hell, they hired the North Dakota State head coach to be their defensive coach, right? Like, they put money into it.
And they've got better defensive talent, too, that they're recruiting for. Your point's a good one, but whoever has the best defense is going to win that LSU Southern Cal game.
Last thing here before we get to the baseball, and this is on a more other note here. There's a lot of stuff going on in college football right now with rules and how we're going to move forward. But there's talk about the future of the walk-on, Brent. So there's so now it's almost like, okay, kids, you guys want to be pros? You want to get paid? Well, there's only going to be 85 players on the team, point blank. 85 players on the team, no walk-ons, right? Everybody gets paid. Nobody's walking on. And to put in context, guys, when you watch college football, you'll notice there's a bunch of kids on the sideline. They got jerseys on, but not shoulder pads and not even a name or whatnot. But they help out in practice. They run scout teams. They're walk-ons, right? They're dream, the Rudies of the world. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I just want to be here. I was, I was a great high school football player. I'm not a 5-chipper, but I can help you. You know what I mean? Even if I just practice with you guys. And it's invaluable. That's part of college football. And one of these kids ends up getting a scholarship and the team loves them. And they might take all that away. And I know a lot of these big-time coaches are like, you're not taking away. Kellen DeBoer goes, I got 135 kids on my team sometimes because I want them to have the experience.
That's right. Well, and look, Mike Elko of A&M was vehement about this at the SEC meetings. Kirby Smart has said, look, we've got coaches on our team that like Will Muschamp, they broke into football because they were walk-ons. I think this would be a compromise, Gabe. I don't think they get rid of walk-ons across the board. I'm serious.
They're going to
about
limit
this.
them now.
Yeah, these coaches have dug their heels in, and Gabe, I think this is something that they're willing to die on the hill on as far as walk-ons are concerned.
Imagine, guys, from a fan perspective, if you're thinking, well, what are you going to talk about walk-ons? Think about, like, okay, so now unless you're a 2-star, 3-star minimum, you'll never get a chance. You won't even get on the campus.
Sure.
Right? Like,
sure.
What are you doing here? Like you said, hell, Brent, like half the guys in the Super Bowl every year were undrafted, Brent.
Oh, yeah. Well,
people don't realize, like guys, like literally like 50, there was a team the other year, like when the Patriots, there was like 53% of their roster are undrafted players, right? Like people, everything, we live in this big star world all the time. All right, Brent, we've got less than 2 minutes left here. College Baseball World Series, 11 SEC teams. Man, one team, and Paul Skeens is killing it at the big league level right now. But
he really
one team I'm sort of looking at here, a dark horse is Dallas Baptist. I think they can get out of the region. Very good baseball team, Brent. They're playing against Arizona. I actually think they can get out of that region. But in the big picture, this Volunteer team looks really, really good to me. Which SEC team would you pick to win?
I would pick either Tennessee, that has everything, pitching, defense, hitting, and the other team that's on fire, and we can't ever forget the hot team really does well is LSU. LSU started really slow, that they have really picked it up. But Gabe, football, basketball, baseball, I'm not sure the SEC, they may be as dominant in baseball as they are in any sport they participate in.
One thing that I love, you're right, it doesn't really get talked about, right? You should sort of be the Cal State Fuller.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the Book.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Always great stuff with Brent Beard. Thanks to Brent and all of our other guests for joining us this evening. College Baseball World Series set to begin in the morning, and there's a million games. Follow me on Twitter X, and I'll post a bunch of single game picks for tomorrow. We're looking forward to this, but let's jump in on these regional props right now. And what I like about these regional props is, too, we don't have to wait very long. We're talking about the weekend, essentially. And it's also cool. There's a loser bracket, so you get a second crack at this to move on. It actually is sort of never-ending. Like, you're watching it, a team loses, and then they're like, all right, they'll be back in the loser bracket. But it's a great format. It's a fair format. And let's get started here. LSU. Brent just talked about LSU. We know how good they are. They sort of had the hangover from last year, and they've started to really put it together. They're a lethal team, and they're plus 110 to win their regional. It's in North Carolina. They're better than the Tar Heels. They should be able to win this regional, and you're getting plus money right now. All right, so we're going to take the LSU Tigers at plus 110 to win their regional. FSU. FSU are playing at home. All right, it's minus 120 for FSU to win their regional. I think the home field advantage will be the deciding factor for FSU. Georgia Bulldogs are also playing at home. Georgia are minus 180. This is the biggest price we're going to lay to win a regional. Some of the other ones like Tennessee, we're going to stay away from the minus 400 and stuff like that. But Georgia Bulldogs, I'm comfortable with laying 80 cents with the Georgia Bulldogs. You look at this group, UNC Wilmington, Georgia Tech, and Army. Right? Georgia has no reason why they shouldn't win this bracket at home as well. Speaking of at home, Santa Barbara plus 140. Let's show some love here to the West Coast. Santa Barbara plus 140 to win the regional, the Santa Barbara regional. Oklahoma State. This is a good baseball team, and they're also playing at home. The Oklahoma State Cowboys minus 110 to win their regional. And it's the Stillwater regional. So Oklahoma State minus 110 to win the Stillwater regional. The Florida Gators are good in name, right? They have the reputation and stuff, but their pitching staff has been getting lit up all year long. Nebraska are good. Keep your eye on Nebraska there. And Nebraska are kind of a dark horse. But Dallas Baptist, we talked about Dallas Baptist earlier. This is a very good baseball team, and they're a speedy team, right? They have a bunch of dudes that steal bases. They play station-to-station baseball. Like, they get a guy on, they hit a double, they score a run. They've got good pitching. Thing about Dallas is, too, they're good on the road, right? Like, this Dallas Baptist team, they have to play teams on the road often. They're very good on the road against big-time teams. They already beat Arizona. And Arizona, they just won the Pac-12, and it was, dramatic and walk-off fashion. The last Pac-12 event last week, we talked about it. But they're not great. Like, it's in Arizona, okay, but they went 3-9 in quadrant 1 games against big-time teams, and Dallas Baptist are a big-time team, and you're getting plus 180. Long story short here, basically, I tweeted about this earlier, like, Dallas Baptist, they're going to make it to the final of this regional, and they won't be plus 180 in the championship game. And hell, who knows, man? The Lopes are dangerous always, right? Grand Canyon. But those are our regional picks that we're going to bet. LSU plus 110, Florida State minus 120, Georgia minus 180. For the record, they won't let me parlay these. Santa Barbara plus 140, Oklahoma State minus 110, and Dallas Baptist plus 180. As far as who's going to win the overall championship, give me the Tennessee Volunteers, even though I don't like the fact, but I guess you know what? UConn were the overall 1 seed this year in college basketball, and they won. But it's one of those deals, the overall 1 seed never wins. Hasn't won since like 1999 or something like that. It's been like 25 years since the overall 1 seed. And Tennessee over the overall 1 seed again. They've been the overall 1 seed a couple of times in recent years and fallen short. But out of all the SEC teams, thing about Tennessee is they can slug the ball. They have multiple pitchers. They're not just sort of reliant on one ace, man. These guys got 2-3 dudes. They got a bullpen as well. Give me the Tennessee Volunteers plus 500, plus 600 range to win overall. We gave you the regionals. We'll have a million picks for you tomorrow night. Gamblu loves this college baseball stuff. It's going to be with us tomorrow night. UFC Newark style as well. Other than that, you're on your own later.